a global campaigning organization working on climate change. We really see it as the biggest crisis facing our world today, and we're doing all in our power to build a global grassroots movement in response.
And we talk about around the world. I mean, where do you have representation? Most countries of the world, all 5 continents?
So it's a pretty unique organization. It actually started really just as a campaign by a bunch of young people, myself and some friends. But very quickly, we united with organizers and activists all around the world, and within just a couple of months, which now it's been going for a couple of years, it's reached out to 188 countries. There's been several days of action and mobilizations that have consisted of thousands and thousands of demonstrations in over 180 countries multiple times, all advocating for the solutions that science and justice demand. And the number 350 has been one of the core rallying parts of all that. It's the safe upper limit of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, measured in parts per million.
Right. And how far are we away from 350?
The scary news is the fact that we're already above that. We're at 392 parts per million, rising 2 per year. And this is the number that scientists say we need to be back below. So it's a radical number, but it's science. And what we're saying is that our governments and our policies need to be based on what the science says is necessary, not what they feel is politically appealing.
I mean, they will tell us that they are applying measures in keeping with what science is telling us. Are they lying to us?
Potentially, yes. Some could be. A lot of them also, they'll use fancy words to make it sound as if they're taking into consideration the science, but the policies they put forward are not based, many of which are not based on science. There's some countries here, usually the most vulnerable countries, that are standing up for what's scientifically necessary because they know the threats that would come if they don't. But many of the rich countries are far too connected with some of the corporate polluters to allow to actually take the measures that science and justice require.
So you're consciousness raising, you're protesting, but are those guys over there in their grey suits, milling around the corridors, are they listening?
Some are. We're working on to make sure that more are. And some of our work here in this conference is to have a direct impact in what's happening. But a lot of what we're doing is also building the movement back home around the world. Just in the last few months, our campaigning efforts were actually most focused in the United States, where there was a proposed pipeline to carry tar sands oil from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. And through incredible amounts of grassroots mobilization, including over 1,000 people getting arrested at the White House and 10,000 people encircling the White House another day, we were able to convince the Obama administration to delay the permits for that pipeline. And that was the most recent sort of symbol of where our movement can make a huge impact. They do listen when we apply pressure correctly.
Okay, and finally, I mean, the delegates, 194 countries, are all kind of getting ready now for the final hours of negotiation, hopefully to reach some kind of meaningful outcome. Are you optimistic? Hopes and expectations by Sunday the world will be a safer place?
Not tremendously. We're pretty uncertain about what's actually, the situation is evolving rapidly as we speak. It's very unclear what positive steps are being included. At the moment, however, most of the agenda seems to go from bad to worse, with very few countries still standing up for what's really necessary. We're trying to change that. But we're here to make sure that the truth about what science says is necessary is told, and that our movement is ready to mobilize to move towards that transformation if necessary.